Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ, taking a look at some of the notable matchups we get in the Midwest starting on Thursday. We're going to give you picks for all of these, including explaining why Providence, a 4 seed, is only favored by 2 against South Dakota State, a 13 seed. What about LSU now heading into the tournament without their head coach? Let's welcome back in Chip Patterson, contributor to the Eye on College Basketball podcast, expert of all things there. We're going to get your picks for the first round in the Midwest. Let's start with Creighton, a 9 seed, going up against San Diego State, an 8 seed. Creighton made it all the way to the Sweet 16 last year, but they are playing without one of their most important players, and it is the Aztecs who are favored by 2.5 in this, the total 120. Where do we head here?
We're going to go with San Diego State. I love this rock fight. I mean, if you want to be a real sicko, you can take the under 120 and just sweat it out and hope for bricks. Certainly the low scoring that we saw in the Big East tournament final against Villanova would suggest that that would be where Creighton wants to go. And locking down on defense is what Creighton has had to do after the injuries that you have mentioned have really hurt their offensive potential. But I think that San Diego State is very comfortable playing that kind of game. San Diego State has been a low scoring under team for the entire season. It is one that is very comfortable playing a game that is only going to be decided by a bucket or two. And so while they are a little bit healthier, that is what really gives me the confidence that the Aztecs are going to be able to ride that defensive supremacy, not just something that they have done within the context of this season, but something that is a real identity to the program to be able to win this game.
We get Richmond, a 12 seed, going up against Iowa, a 5 seed. The first time Richmond has been in the tournament since 2011. They do have the tall task of going up against the Big Ten tournament champs, and as I am now calling them, the Hassel Hawkeyes. Iowa favored by 10.5 here, the total 150 and a hook. What do you think?
I'm going to take Iowa here. You know, two teams that both won their conference tournaments. It's interesting. There's an entire regions where you don't find a lot of the conference tournament success that we have here in the Midwest, up and down the region bracket. I think that what Richmond was able to accomplish in Washington, D.C., winning the Atlantic 10, I can only call it a heater, and I think that that is going to be something that might be difficult to sustain. Iowa's success in the Big Ten tournament, I think, was more representative of what we had over the course of the last, 4 or 5 weeks of the season as well. And so when you're trying to decide who's going to be able to cover this thing, I just think that Richmond is going to cool off just a little bit. Iowa clearly has not just the best player on the floor, but one of the best players in the region in terms of Keegan Murray. And then one final note that really had me swaying towards the Hawkeyes, yes, even covering this big number, is that on the season, Richmond has the worst against the spread cover percentage in the entire Midwest region. So while they were, again, on an admitted heater there in the conference tournament in the Atlantic 10, I think they cool off just a little bit, and the Hawkeyes are able to win comfortably.
We get South Dakota State, a 13 seed, going up against 4-seeded Providence there. Providence, however, only favored by 2 in this. South Dakota State didn't lose any in conference play. They've won about 21 straight now. Providence struggled down this stretch, but you feel confident with this number, Chip?
Yeah, I'm going to take Providence. I think that South Dakota State and the Jackrabbits' ability to shoot it from 3, how efficient they are offensively, their star power, it makes them very attractive. And the betting line is going to factor that in. But it's important to remember that the odds makers and the computer numbers have been going up against Providence throughout the entire season, and yet they still have found ways to win. I mean, they cover the spread 56.7% of the time. They are a team that is comfortable winning close games, and I think that, no matter what your luck ratings, no matter what your, the lucky aspects that you think Providence might have had, I just don't think that it is representative of any kind of shortcomings, because I think that Ed Cooley and this veteran-led Providence team want to make this a difficult, low-scoring, close game where they will be more than happy to get into a little bit of a fight, have it decided by free throws and stops, feed Nate Watson and see if he can get it done down low. I've always been on the Providence side of this debate on whether the Friars are good or not, because I think that while the efficiency metrics are going to tell you one thing, the actual results have to mean something as well. So I'm Team Providence here. I will go with the Friars to win this game narrowly.
Let's go to Iowa State, an 11 seed versus 6-seeded LSU. Of course, the big thing for LSU, look, they're heading into this without their head coach, Will Wade, fired this weekend, accused of violating 5 Level 1 NCAA violations. The Tigers are a 4-point favorite here. However, still the total 125 and a hook. What do you think about this?
Dead cat bounce. Go Tigers. This is going to be, at least for one game, I think, an opportunity for us to jump on the other side of the narrative, because if you were talking yourself out of LSU, that also requires talking yourself into Iowa State. And I don't know how closely you have been following, wagering on, or having expectations for Iowa State coming down the stretch, but that is not a trustworthy team at this point in time. TJ Altenberger's done a fantastic job with the group in general. Their start was tremendous. Great story at the beginning of the year, but LSU is an elite defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in this region, one of the best defensive teams in the country. And I think that while there is going to be a major disruption from losing Will Wade, I think that for at least one game, you might be able to get the razor focus, because the ceiling for this LSU team is absolutely higher than the ceiling for Iowa State. And so I think that, again, just for one game, I think that we can actually jump on the other side of the narrative, a little bit of a contrarian play, and take LSU.
We have Colgate, a 14 seed, going up against 3 seed Wisconsin. Wisconsin favored by 7.5, total 139. Chip, you like Colgate. Is this just a cover, or are we going wild big upset here?
Just a cover. I always go looking at possessions, and this Wisconsin team, especially with our questions about Johnny Davis's health, it's going to be one where I am not ready to trust that they're going to come out and be peak Wisconsin. And even a peak Wisconsin team doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to cover this spread against a very good Colgate team that just absolutely ran through the Patriot League. And the dominance that Colgate had in the league is something that we don't see with a lot of these mid-major tournament winners, with a lot of these mid-major AQs, because they won the regular season by multiple games. They won every conference tournament game by at least 15 points. They're a sweet shooting team. They take care of the ball. It just has the looks of an upset scare more than an outright upset, but 7.5 is plenty of room for us to be able to cover this spread and Wisconsin still to advance.
This next line, a lot smaller than that. Miami going up against USC. Miami a 10 seed, USC a 7 seed. Miami's first tournament appearance since 2018. USC made it all the way to the Elite Eight last year. They are entering the tournament with most wins in school history, but they are only favored by 1.5 here. The total is 139.5.
The high end is better with Miami than it is with USC. USC's got good size. They play great defense. But you look at this Hurricanes team and, Charlie Moore, Cam McGusty, Isaiah Wong, those dudes are walking buckets. And I just don't think USC has that kind of firepower to be able to keep up if we do get into one of these close games where you got to go and make a play in the half court. I trust USC to get stops. I don't trust USC to get buckets. And so that's why I'm going to end up siding with Miami to be the team here. Now, one more note on USC, only covered the spread 45.5% of the time. That is the worst mark in the Midwest region. And so Andy Enfield's done a very good job with this program. He's done a very good job with this team over the last couple of years. But I just think that the ceiling and the offensive advantage undoubtedly is with Jim Larrañaga and the Miami Hurricanes.
Winner of that game will face the winner of this game, Jacksonville State, going up against 2-seeded Auburn. Jacksonville State, a 15 seed. They've never beaten Auburn in the history of ever. I think they're 0-13 against them.
The history of ever.
The history of ever. That's an official thing. You can write that down and use it again. Tigers, Chip, favored by 15.5. That's a big number there. Can they cover that?
No. Auburn's best basketball seems as though it was in the rear view. Auburn's best basketball mostly takes place at home, and when Auburn has left the friendly confines of its home arena, the performance has taken a noticeable and marked dip. I think that Jacksonville State's going to come in extremely fired up, uniquely motivated. This is the entire NCAA tournament for this Jacksonville State team. And so I like taking all these points with Jacksonville State. And the Auburn conundrum is one that I do not know if it will be solved, because you've got two players that rank among the best in the entire field, and Jabari Smith, a likely top 3, top 4 pick in the NBA draft. Walker Kessler has made one of the best one-year jumps from freshman and sophomore in the entire country. What those two players can do on paper, it's amazing. But then when you send Auburn out to actually get it done, especially away from home, whether it's complaints about Katie Johnson, Wendell Green, the guard play in general, it just seems like it's a little bit more clunky. And so I think that gives us an opportunity to jump on Jacksonville State. Auburn wins the game, but too many points. In fact, how about this? This is the 1-2-15 battle that I would circle and think that we could see a 2-15 upset. I believe Auburn wins. I've picked it in my expert bracket on CBSSports.com, but you give me all these points against the spread and I'll take the dog.
Chip, you and I were on air last year when Oral Roberts beat 2-seeded Ohio State. So I hope we get something fantastic like that this year. And you and I can hop on and talk about it. Chip Patterson, thank you so much. We'll talk to you very soon. They're recapping his picks. He likes San Diego State over Creighton. He says if you want to be a little sicko there, take the under. Iowa can easily cover the 10.5, picking Providence to cover the 2. He likes LSU to take care of business versus Iowa State. Colgate and Jacksonville State to cover the spread. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.